Hello Universe, Josh here. This will be a response to Are You Talking to Me? It's regarding Scouty's thought experiment. And I'm just going to analyze and look at what you did and kind of compare it to myself. And I'll try and go quickly and fit this all in one 10-minute video if possible. Okay, here we go. So yeah, you started off not knowing what any of the words in the first sentence were, the words in the title, so your plan was to go ahead and read the rest and try and figure out and get some context. Great. You pick out rhythm right away, you make a hypothesis that the word rhythm should help you decipher the meaning of the rest of them. If I recall correctly, you never really did figure out circadian until after, but I think you did get a good sense of it anyways. So you said you know what synchronization is, but there's a lack of meaning for environmental synchronizer. Interesting. I see you. Are you talking to me? It's an interesting username. I see you putting things together in kind of a structural sense. It's like, okay, here's conflict, which I know, and here's rhythms, which I know. So here's conflict between these two things. Here's empty space with rhythms. It's like our brains have a built-in concept for unknown, or the placeholder, well, where it fits. It's like a game of Mad Libs, like noun, adjective, verb, and you gotta. I saw that a lot with you anyways, that's what I saw. You start to put things together when you see shift work. This is what a bunch of us did. It really gives us context. I think SD used the term anchor. And this is where you mention the sun and you start thinking of environmental factors, as I did. Although at this point you say you don't know what would lead to disturbed sleep. So you're talking about putting people in boxes, and it seems you kind of forgot about, or you didn't notice the transmeridian part, and you didn't notice that it was about jet lag until like a couple seconds later you said, oh, jet lag, and you inserted it very quickly into your thought narrative. Next, you try to make sense of biological synchronizers and environmental synchronizers. Those are words that you're like, what does that mean? I have no idea. It seems to me that different people are satisfied with different levels of understanding of concepts like that. If you really think about it, that text, it didn't have, like, those didn't have definite meanings and understandings, because they would have had to be inserted directly in there, and they would have had to be thinking this, and this are environmental synchronizers, this, and this are your biological ideas. And maybe if this was a longer paper, a scientific paper, maybe that was like, this might have been just the abstract. I still don't know what the text actually was, but maybe later on in the actual big 50-page thing, they would actually have graphs and variables and what they added to what, or whatever. It seems to me that it's more of a summary though of different experiments that may have been done. Would have been nice if there were sources cited, but I don't care that much about it anyway, so I don't care if they didn't cite sources. It just would have helped maybe with meaning, perhaps. That's Scouty now, though. I'll mention this to you, and as part of the experiment, you mentioned that referring to other texts is prohibited. But I think that's one of our primary strategies for creating meaning and creating context. I guess the reason that you did that, the reason for that restriction, was simply that it would take too much time and that it wouldn't be a compact package. The whole experiment wouldn't have worked. Okay, back to Are You. It seems that you say you don't know what these are, what biological and environmental synchronizers are, and you're able to list examples right there. You're saying, oh, the sun, the crickets chirping at night, and then you're able to conceptualize, at least on a general sense, what biological rhythms might be, even though you sound frustrated that that there's nothing solid to grab onto. And different readers will have a different level of satisfaction with that and be able to move on. Maybe assuming that later on there will be some, there will be light shed on those terms. I don't think anyone should be expected to understand what the authors meant specifically by environmental synchronizers without them actually saying, well, we mean this, this, and this variable, which were actually measured in this, this, and this test or study. But you're just supposed to get a vague sense of what that might be. Is that poor writing? Perhaps that's poor style. Or maybe they should have just admitted, well, we know this is vague, but just take our word for it, kind of thing. There's ways to do that with words, with style, with rhetoric. And then you, let's see, you don't understand the curve and the whole graph thing. I think until you get to the point where it says oscillation, and then it's like, oh, now I can go back. I can go back and look at that again and say, okay, then now there's oscillation. Now it makes a little more sense. Dictionary.com, it's great. I actually use www.m-w.com. It's pretty much identical to dictionary.com. Here's another thing I noticed. Are You Talking to Me got quiet and fast when you didn't feel like you got it. Or maybe your concentration was waning, or I don't know, maybe there was noises in the background. Scouty, this is another strategy that I didn't see in your analysis specifically, though I may have missed it. But there's this speeding up, slowing down. There's actually physical cues of when the reader is trying to regain consciousness or reading a passage again, they do something a little bit different. Also, some of that could have been a result of attention being divided and on the camera and having to speak and having to put out something that might be entertaining, because that's what we do. Well, I'm not entertaining, but that's what people on YouTube try and do. They try to be entertaining. So yeah, when the text became confusing, or he didn't quite, or you wanted to go over it again, you lowered your focus on the camera, and it's now down here on the text, and it's like your brow is furrowed, and yeah, you're in there. Okay. Another thing that becomes clear towards the end is your frustration with some of the grammatical sloppiness when talking about like high memory load and like the bad sentence, the bad grammar there. Now, of course, we know that meaning can be constructed even with bad grammar, with poor grammar, but good grammar makes it easier to understand and eliminates possible confusion. I'm also going to say that even correct grammar can be stylistically ugly and disgusting sometimes, as in this case. But it also didn't help that there were terms that were unfamiliar. We do often seem to have this fear of confusion, though, with text, whether it's from big words or strange grammatical constructions. We don't seem to like not being able to understand things, and I think this is something that could be looked at further. We seem to have a natural drive or desire to understand, to derive meanings, to determine patterns in texts and in anything else we happen to look at. I actually think there probably are endorphins in our brains, that is, chemicals in our brains that are released, and we have a moment of release when we do understand something that we've been trying to understand. This is why riddles are so popular, or used to be popular. Does anyone tell riddles anymore? And whatever the opposite of endorphins are, I guess we have those when we're trying, when we're struggling to understand the meaning, to get something out of it, to recognize a pattern or anything like that. And then that's when we say, aha, I got it, when those endorphins are released. Okay, and that's all for you, that's what I saw. So, thanks for watching.